Good afternoon, everybody. I will call the Environment Committee to order for Tuesday, April 23rd. First item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
Move approval.
Motion to approve has been made. All in favor, say.
We need a second.
I'm sorry, there's a second right there. We do have a second. And so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carries. Okay, that takes us to the approval of the minutes from April 9th, 2019. Any changes to those minutes?
I would move approval of the minutes.
Motion's been made to approve the minutes from April 9th. Is there a second?
Second.
Second's been made. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Carries with a resounding unanimous vote.
I think the others didn't want to
Abstain. I abstain.
vote because they weren't here.
Gotcha. Understood. All right. Now, we have two items on our business agenda, as well as the general manager's report. The first one, we have a presentation from Mr. Gordon on 2019-95 construction contract to replace lift station L55 down in Bloomington. Welcome.
Yes, Chairman Lindstrom, committee members, thank you. My name's Adam Gordon. I'm the manager of the Interceptor Engineering Department. I'm here to present the construction contract to replace lift station L55 in Bloomington. I have a map here that shows the location of the project. This project is going to replace and relocate the existing lift station L55 as it's shown here near the intersection of Normandale and 494. If you're familiar with that area, there's a Cirrus Rugs store, and it's in the parking lot of that store right on the frontage road. The new 3.8 million gallon per day lift station, which is going to be located south of there by a block where it's pointed out new lift station on the map, will have a capacity for long-term growth needed as proposed development when the L55 lift station sewer shed will generate wastewater flows that exceed the existing capacity of the station there now. New gravity and force main interceptor sewer construction is included with the project, and you can see it noted there as in the black line as the new gravity sewer, and there's some abandonment on the east side of that block is noted as the new force main and also the existing gravity sewer to be abandoned. The L55 lift station will be relocated to an area that has the least impact on neighborhood properties and will accommodate MnDOT's future plans to widen I-494. Bids were received that ranged from $13,283,200 to $15,618,624. 4 bids were received. 2 of the bids were how should I say, considered not responsive. They did not include a 495 form. It was incomplete. So the 2 bids that remained, fortunately, Rice Lake Construction had the low bid, and they were actually the lowest bid of all 4 bids.
Mr. Gordon, could you tell us what a 495 form is?
Oh, 494 5 form is a responsible contractor information form, and it's required by state statute. It shows their intended subcontractors that are going to be on the project, and it's very important for us to receive this information so that OEO and other groups can fulfill their evaluation of the bids.
Thank you.
The engineer's estimate was at $11,330,000, and that was low by more than 10%. Staff had determined that the engineer's estimate did not correctly reflect the cost of some of the deep excavation work that was required, which tends to be highly variable depending upon the available equipment materials. Also, the Office of Equal Opportunity has evaluated Rice Lake Construction Group's bid and determined that the income goals of 13% have been met. So at this time, we like the proposed action that the Metropolitan Council authorizes its regional administrator to award and execute contract 19P009 for the Bloomington Lift Station L55 replacement to Rice Lake Construction Group for its low responsible bid of $13,495,700. And I would be happy to take any questions at this time.
You may have mentioned this, but the need for the replacement, and that area is obviously an area of a lot of growth that's already happened and future growth. Is that really the need for the replacement, or was the old one not working correctly, or what was happening?
No, Chairman Lindstrom, this was just our general growth in that area exceeded the capacity of that lift station. It was an older lift station, but this wasn't to replace a failing lift station. This was to just simply meet our customer service to that area.
How long is a lift station? How long is it good for?
Typically, we go about 40 years before needing to start including improvements for lift station, electrical gear, controls, those sort of things are the first to need replacement in a project. Some of our lift stations will make it as far as about 60 years, but that's kind of on the high end. We usually have issues with corrosion and piping and other things that will be deteriorating by that point.
Thank you. Other questions from the council? Councilmember Sterner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Gordon, I'm just wondering, when the bidders aren't responsive, do they automatically throw those out because they don't have a form, or do you like coach them or educate them to do the form either at that bid or in the future kind of thing? You know, what happens on that type of process?
Right. Chairman Lindstrom, to address the question of what we do during bid when we have something that's unresponsive, there's a lot of different forms contractors need to fill out during their bid. If we find that they're unresponsive, yes, they are dismissed at that point. We do reach out, however, to contractors, and we coordinate meetings with our procurement department to alert them of any changes in forms, or if we see problems where they're not filling out particular forms, we like to get together with them. We've been invited to the AGC, Association of General Contractors, to talk about forms and how to prepare bids and how to keep, be upfront with all their information that they need to complete a responsive bid. So we try our efforts to outreach that way.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the report, it says the new one is 3.8 million gallons per day. What was the capacity of the old one?
Actually, I don't have that information right in front of me, so I'd have to look that up for you.
That's okay. I just was curious, how much upsizing it needed from the old one.
Or Councilmember Sterner.
Yes, thank you, Chair Lindstrom. And Mr. Gordon, I'm just wondering, it shows the existing gravity sewer is abandoned. So what's the process of that? Does it literally just get abandoned? Do you fill it full of gravity, remove it, or what happens when something's abandoned, and can that land be reused at a later date, that type of thing.
Yes, Chairman Lindstrom, when we abandon uh, sewers that have been in service for a long time, it's usually driven by the community, what their requirements are for abandonment. In general, we like to fill the sewer, so we'll put like a flowable grout into the sewer to abandon it. In some cases, we actually remove the sewer.
Okay, thank you.
What is the grout? You actually
It's
fill
like,
the whole pipe, or what?
yes, it's like a very lean cement that, in case you ever had to dig through it at a later date, it breaks apart very easily.
Great. Fascinating. Other questions? Is there a motion to approve this contract?
Move approval.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second. Go for it.
Chris.
I heard a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very informative. That takes us to our second business item, which is 2019-96 Blue Lake Polymer contract. Mr. Ward, welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, committee members, my name is Joe Ward. I'm a principal engineer in the process engineering group, and I should have said an ES. And I'm here today to talk to you about a polymer contract for Blue Lake. First, I wanted to go through just briefly a background on what polymer is and what sludge is. So first slide here on the picture on the left, what is sludge? It's our particles that settle naturally and are excess microorganisms. It's our primary sludge, we like to call it, and secondary sludge from the treatment process. And so what you have is a mixture of solids and water. And what is polymer? It is it's mineral oil, polyacrylamide, and water. And the raw materials that go into making it are oil and natural gas. And what it does is, the picture on the right, it causes the sludge particles to agglomerate, flocculate. And why we need it is it allows our dewatering equipment to physically separate, the water from the solids as best as possible. And our background on the project is, we sent out an invitation for bids on October 26th, and we received 2 bids in 2 parts. Part 1 being the product information. The manufacturers send us first what products they're going to test full scale at Blue Lake. They come in and we see which one works the best for their facility. And then we completed the full scale evaluation. And then at a later date, on March 20th, we opened the bid for the cost information. And Polydyne met the evaluation process criteria at the lowest cost. And so today we're requesting a $750,000 annual expense and a 5-year contract not to exceed $3.75 million. The proposed action would be that the Metropolitan Council authorize its regional administrator to award and execute contract 18P280 to Polydyne Inc. to provide polymers to the Blue Lake wastewater treatment plant. This contract will be for a period of 5 years with the total procurement not to exceed $3.75 million. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Ward? Is Polydyne a local company?
No, they're out of Dalton, Georgia.
Okay.
And
Thereabouts.
yes.
And is getting 2 bids, is that pretty standard for something like this, or a little on the low side?
That is normal. What we do is we require the bidders be manufacturers of polymer. There's been a history at other municipalities where if you allow a distributor to bid the polymer, what can happen is they can simply say that our manufacturer has cut us off and we cannot supply you any more polymer. And that would be a very big problem. So we restrict it to manufacturers only, and there are at the moment 2 manufacturers who suppliers for us.
Fantastic. Other questions? Yeah, Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll put on my teacher hat for a moment because I just kind of do that. But this polymer stuff is really different from other sorts of chemicals and things that you would purchase because each of the wastewater treatment plants has a little different chemistry of what's coming through the pipe. And so that's why they have to go through the testing process with different polymers to see what works the best and then do the calculation of, okay, on the ones that work the best, what's your best bang for the buck in terms of, some polymers might cost more, but you use less or vice versa. So it's a big math thing, and they try not to do it very often because it is very work-intensive process, but it does lead to the best operation for each of our individual plants with each of their individual chemistries in the process.
Sounds like a very key component to making this whole thing work, right?
Yes.
If that doesn't work, then, like you said, the separating of the water and the solids, that doesn't work either, and then you got yourself a big mess.
Yes. Absolutely correct.
Anything you'd like to add to that?
Polymers, when we pick them well, save us a lot of money.
Perfect.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move approval.
Very good. A motion has been made to move approval with a contract with Polydyne. Is there a second?
Second.
I hear a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And that takes us to the general manager's report.
So I do actually have a PowerPoint tonight,
All right.
but it's short. So, just a word though, we did amend the agenda as you've seen. We felt that we had another step we needed to go through before we brought the information to you. So you'll be seeing that at the next meeting because we're just gearing up now to be able to go out to our communities, share our plan for 2020 so that they can do their budget planning and get their input. But big excitement last week, despite the not the best ideal weather when it was raining so heavily. We did actually have Representative Angie Craig make it to the Empire plant for a tour. And with the help of the bus and umbrellas, we made it through the tour, I think, pretty well. Would have been perfect to do an Empire walking tour, but not so much because of the weather that day. She was really, really interested and asked great questions. And you can't see it very well. We were in front of the belt filter presses. I do know that's Wendy's favorite part of the plant. And I think
That's where you get to see the polymer actually work.
Polymers in action.
anyway, it was cool to have somebody from that level be really interested in finding out what she could. We found out that she's on a committee where they're looking at infrastructure grants and funding and wanted to have some context. So one of her questions was, well, how much did it cost to build this plant? So she could put some dollar signs to the kind of infrastructure. And Renee's our engineering plant manager, and so she was part of the last upgrade for that facility. So she could, none of us here have that data in our head of the original construct, but we know we doubled its size and we spent $70 million doing that. So it answered the question she needed, which is to put some context to how far do your dollars go when you're talking about wastewater infrastructure. So I don't think it might not be the last time we hear from her because she had some follow-up kinds of questions and comments. So we exchanged business cards and we might hear from her in the future. And we'll be certainly ready to help her get what information she needs to make her decisions in a good way.
That's great. I'm sure we are in constant communication with our federal representatives, especially as it relates to transit projects. I'm curious, did she reach out to us or did we reach out to her, or how did that all happen? And do we do other tours with our other representatives and senators?
So I don't know all the details, but my read on the situation is she reached out to us. I'm not sure who she contacted. Janine, do you know? She might have a little bit more insight in terms of the original invitation.
I'm glad it all came together, and it seems like Be great to duplicate it if we don't do it already with our other representatives.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee. So two things happened. First of all, our manager of community relations, Leah Solo, was working on regional tours. So she was advancing some ideas and had been in contact with ES about some specific plant tours. So that was underway. And in the meantime, uh, Congresswoman Craig's office contacted a member of our staff. And so it was kind of impromptu. So we redirected that phone call to Leah Solo's office in the regional administrator's office. And it just kind of was interesting that there were two tracks going at the same time. So very pleased to be part of that.
Councilmember Vento.
Mr. Chair, the congressional schedule isn't carved in granite, but it's pretty predictable, and they print it in advance, and prior to holiday weekends are always good times to get them. And it might be worth considering council-wide, strategies on how to engage House and Senate members in visits like this.
No question about it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I do know that there's a lot of discussion about the infrastructure condition and how to help improve that situation. So I know I appreciate that she went away understanding things that she didn't know previously, and she was grateful for that. I did also hear from her that this was the only day that she was going to be outside for something, and of course it rained.
Mr. Chair, actually, I saw Congresswoman Craig again on Monday at the Farmington State of the City address, and it was raining cats and dogs that
Really?
day, too. So I think maybe she brought the weather with her.
Maybe that's just a statement about Congress in general, not Representative Craig.
All wet.
So this is a record short meeting. We promise there won't be many of this length, but it's nice that at least the weather's going to give you a nice evening, and so I don't imagine it's too bad that you get to go home early, but we try not to make you make trips for too short of meetings.
Remind me, do we need a motion for adjournment? I believe, no, we don't.
At the
So
chair's
moved.
discretion.
Wow.
However you want.
All right, at the chair's discretion. So it looks like unless you have anything to add, we are good to go. We are adjourned.